All right, I think everybody is here. So welcome everyone to the Parks Foundation and Quality of Life Policy Committee meeting. Uh, and we have all our members here, Councilmember Murillo, Councilmember Coombs, and you have all your staff. So we'll go ahead and start the meeting. So first up on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. Any questions, additions, changes?
No changes for me.
Councilmember Coombs?
No changes for me.
All right. None for me as well. So meetings are approved. Any announcements?
I'll have no announcements for this meeting. Thank you.
Committee members?
None from me.
All right. Seeing none. Agenda items. So we'll go with our first agenda item, which is the resolution for the City Council, City of Aurora, expressing the Aurora City Council's approval to waive fees for disabled veterans to use parks, recreation, and open space facilities. All right. So is Joe Sack, are you going to be the one doing the presentation?
Joe, would you like me to take this one? This is Brooke.
Yeah, that's fine. Whoever.
Okay. Thank you. So we received a request for Councilmember Medina to look at our disabled veterans and could we provide a discount for their membership. At the same time, we also had met with the representatives from the Veterans Commission and also Ryan Lance asking about all veterans. We chose to look at the disabled veterans based on affordability, and that is what this resolution focuses on. And this would give the disabled veterans in the city free memberships to the recreation centers, the annual membership and drop-in. And that's where it's limited. And Joe, if I misspoke on that, let me know. The cost of offering that free access for the disabled veteran is approximately $217,000. I base that calculation on the U.S. Census and the number of veterans that were in the city when that census was taken. And then I also looked at the VA site, the Veterans Administration site, and on that site, they say that there are approximately 30% of our veterans are disabled or have some sort of disability. And so that is how the calculation was, or the dollar amount of the impact was determined. With regard to, I do not have a calculation for all veterans to have free access. But that's where we landed, and that was the recommendation that we're bringing forward. And this, again, this recognizes the disabled veterans' contribution and sacrifice to our country. So thank you.
All right, committee members, Councilmember Coombs, have any questions?
Sorry, I keep having trouble unmuting. So I don't, however, could we look just at what that number would be to make it all rather than just the disabled veterans? Not that we have to say we're going to pursue that, but maybe for the backup for study session, just so that we have both numbers available.
Yes, I could do that.
Okay, awesome. But in general, I'm certainly supportive of this. I would potentially be supportive of an ask for all, although I would want to have, as well some comment from staff about what the real impact would be on the department, and where we would identify any funding sources to offset that cost to the department if we were going to make that choice.
Thank you. We can do that.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yeah, no, actually, Councilmember Coombs, I'm right there with you. but in order to have the discussion of what that would look like kind of more broadly, I think we need the kind of information on the cost. So thanks for making that ask. I support that as well. We talked about this just very briefly. This was in part a conversation born from the Veteran Affairs Commission, an advisory group to council. They did their annual report yesterday, but it also sounds like they've been connecting and working with Councilmember Medina and staff for some time. So we didn't talk about it at the meeting yesterday because we were going to talk about it today. So I'm glad that we are able to. It sounds like they've have a lot of great ideas. We know they have a lot of great energy, and to be able to kind of move things forward with them, I think has hopefully been great for their experience. But I know I feel good about being able to do that, and also in a way that like is mindful and working with staff. I don't know how productive it is when that doesn't happen. So I'm glad that we can all be collaborators on this. That's it for me. I support moving this forward.
Okay, and yeah, my sentiments are pretty much the same. Yeah, I figured, I know we looked at it broad. I looked at it broad as well, and I just want to make sure, to the same thing as council members have already said, is the impact. I want to make sure that it's not burdening the department, and if so, are there areas that we can help assist that to make that come to fruition if need be. So, but yeah, we figured to start somewhere, and I think some places better than none, and this at least acknowledges them and puts them on the radar a little bit because they have done a lot for our communities, and this is good kind of one way to help honor them as well. So I'm good with passing it. So if everybody's good, we will move it forward. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
support.
And next on the agenda is the Colorado Freedom Memorial and Visitor Center concessions agreement. That's is that Nicole? Or Rick Crandall?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Ankeny, and I'm the manager of planning, design, and construction for the pros department. And I have Rick Crandall with me as well. He is and Rick, you're going to have to correct me on title, the CEO of the Colorado Freedom Memorial Foundation. So I'll discuss the first several slides, and then I will have Rick jump in as well. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, with regards to the Colorado Freedom Memorial Visitor and Education Center, this proposal, essentially we are trying to provide a gathering place to honor, educate, and remember the price paid for freedom and pay tribute to the 6,218 Colorado veterans that were killed in action. We are also aiming to teach future generations about their service and sacrifice. And we will also, Rick's Foundation would be hosting public programs presented by Buckley Space Force Base, Aurora Chamber Defense Council, historians, authors, and other distinguished visitors. Next slide. So just as a quick reminder, you have all seen these images previously, but I just wanted to re-show some of the documentation that the architecture, that Rick's architect has put together for the project. These are the images and renderings that show what the visitor center will look like. Next slide. Another image from a different angle. Next slide, please. And then just as a reminder of the site plan, and that we previously passed the renaming of the southern portion of the formerly known Spring Hill Park. So this area is now known as Memorial Park. Next slide. So the reason we are before you today is that we have been working on the concession agreement. The original concession agreement between the city and the foundation was done in 2012, and that was essentially put together to develop the Colorado Freedom Memorial itself. Then in 2020, we did do an amendment to develop the Gold Star Families Memorial. So we're here today to discuss the amended and restated agreement. Next slide, please. So the intent behind this new agreement is the incorporation of the visitor center, of course. And Rick can also express to you, we are referring to it as the CFM Center. So you will often see either visitor center or visitors and education center, but we're sort of in a point where we're transitioning to referring to it as the CFM Center. So we have the agreement attached as part of your packet. And we just kind of wanted to review some of the primary additions and revisions to that. Essentially, what we're covering in the agreement is the construction, maintenance, and operations of the CFM Center. So that means, of course, the building, sidewalks, any site furnishings associated with that. So that could be any of the benches, picnic tables, flag poles, and those types of things. We're also covering the roles and responsibilities on landscaping and irrigation, as well as improvements and expansion to the parking lot. So in general, the foundation will be responsible for the maintenance and operation of the building itself. And then pros will have the responsibility for the site, landscape, irrigation, as well as snow removal. We also worked with our risk manager to make sure that the current insurance and liability information was up to date. It turns out there were very, very minor changes to that section, so that was good news. We are also, as part of this agreement, we have an addition that was not previously in there, where we intend to establish a routine communication method between the foundation and pros. We've always had very good communication with Rick, but we want to set something that's a little more formalized, be that a standard meeting or or a standard email or form to fill out. That way we're ensuring that both parties are on the same page, especially when it comes to proposed events, any maintenance related items and that sort of things. So I also wanted to mention that the language does spell out anything that if the foundation itself should cease to exist, or if there are any substantial changes, we can either modify the agreement, or if the foundation does cease to exist in the future, the building would revert back to city ownership. That language was all very well established through the previous agreements, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. And Michelle Gardner and I have been working on this agreement with Rick very closely over the last few weeks, and we just wanted to give you some highlights. Next slide, please. So this image shows the approved master plan for the site. You can see there in the dashed black line, that's the approximate limits of construction. And the red dashed is the established maintenance area for the foundation. As I mentioned, the pros department will be taking on all of the site maintenance, landscaping and irrigation and snow removal. But this diagram I think is very helpful because it really illustrates the delineation of roles and responsibilities between the city and the foundation. Next slide. Another item that we have added into the agreement is we are enabling the installation and maintenance of 2 art sculptures on site by the foundation. So the foundation will either own or lease those art sculptures, and they will also be maintained by the foundation. Though the specifics are still being determined and are subject to change, currently the proposed pieces include Colorado's First, which is a Spanish-American soldier in front of the visitor center. And then the other piece is called Shattered, and that's a sculpture to be located near the Colorado Freedom Memorial. And Rick, do you have anything you would like to elaborate on the proposed sculptures thus far?
Yeah, I can. First off, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. So starting with Shattered, that is actually the piece of the memorial that was shattered when we had that vandalism incident out there about 5 years ago. One of the Gold Star mothers, when she came out and saw that piece, remarked to us, "That's exactly how I feel every day, shattered." And that stuck with us and thought it spoke to the emotions of probably many of the families that have names on the memorial. So we saved that piece intact with the intent to someday place it in the park as really as an art piece. And I think it's going to be really make a pretty big impact. And the Spanish American soldier, the very first names on the memorial are from the Spanish American War. And that war is often forgotten simply because it was in 1899, and we're now multiple generations past that. So as a way to pay tribute to the very first Coloradans killed in action, we have engaged a sculptor up in Loveland to work on a piece that features one of those Coloradans that served in the Spanish-American War. So that's those two pieces. We think they'll be wonderful additions to the park.
Thank you, Rick. Next slide, please. And then, Rick, would you like to speak about the fundraising efforts, please?
Yeah, we're off and running. We've been kind of waiting until we knew this meeting was taking place before we got really excited about fundraising, simply because we didn't want there to be any possible hiccups down the road or something that slowed things down. And we're confident and comfortable enough that with the concession agreement in place now that we can advance pretty heartily with fundraising. We're reaching out to lots of people. Many people have shown some interest in participating, and I suspect we'll hit our fundraising goals and be able to potentially start moving some dirt out there towards the end of this year, which would get us into a very exciting and busy 2025 with the project. I would add to what Nicole said earlier about Michelle Gardner and Nicole and I working together. At no time in those conversations were any voices raised. We actually worked very pleasantly, very amicably on the contract. There was no real issues that came up. So it's in a good place. The whole project is in a really good place.
All right, next slide, please. Just as an overview of where we're at with the major milestones to get to approval, and Rick kind of went over some of this. The master plan amendment was indeed approved in January. We are before you to move the concession agreement forward. The next step will be working with the Arapahoe County Open Space, because a building is not allowed on property that is acquired with Arapahoe County Open Space funds. And we also had a grant from about 2012 that did have some improvements. So we are working through that, and that will come before PFQL probably in that next meeting in May. And then, of course, on from there, Rick and his design team will be doing civil plans and building permits. And then, as Rick stated earlier, we hope to have the groundbreaking in the fourth quarter. Next slide, please. So before I go to the question for the policy committee, do you all have any questions for me or Rick?
Councilmember Coombs?
No questions. This is exciting. Exciting to see things coming to fruition.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Murillo?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation. I thought the symbolism behind the shattered piece and keeping that as a piece of art and kind of representing how families feel, that touched me a little bit. So I'm really glad to hear that there was something made out of probably a really terrible time, right, for that to have happened. So no questions for me, and I support moving forward.
Again, thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I don't have no questions either. I'm glad that it's happening and moving, and let us know how we can help support you in any way. So
thank you very much.
So I think we're in consensus. You need us to go ahead and move this forward. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Council members, all good?
Yep. Yes.
All right. Then we'll move it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I think we're down to the end here. Miscellaneous matters of consideration. Anyone? Topics for next month.
So next month, we'll be bringing back the Memorial Park. This is the Arapahoe County funding that Nicole just mentioned. We hope to have agreement with the county as far as what the refund to them will be based on those that grant and the original purchase of the property. I generally we think it's going to be less than 400,000, but and maybe closer to 200,000 to just give you a ballpark. But that's what we'll be addressing with the county, and then we'll come back with that agreement. And then we also have several other IGAs that we're working on, with one with the county, one with the state on universal preschool, and we'll give you a Broncos funding update. There are some other IGAs with Cherry Creek School District, Aurora Public School, the Aurora Public Schools. Those will either come next month or the following month. So it gives we have a lot of IGAs we're working on. That's it.
Thank you much. Any other questions, concerns? If not, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.